Welcome back to Cinema Flicks and Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the beast with the least. Least I can do today is say hello. Not terribly exciting introduction, but there you go, hello. So as you can tell, wearing the old Frank Zappa t-shirt there, and there's a Frank Zappa Funko Pop arrived, so that must mean that we're going to be reviewing the brand new Tuxedo with Jackie Chan and Jennifer Love. No, we're going to be looking at the brand new box set, the Waka Wazoo box set, which combines the sessions of Waka Jawaka and the Grand Wazoo from Frank Zappa's missing year. It doesn't feel right to call it that when it wasn't really a missing year. It was a very productive year. It's convalescing year. I think that's a more succinct way to put it. After he'd been injured in a disgusting on-stage attack in London, he was unable to perform with any kind of mobility. He was in all sorts of recovery and whatnot. And he spent it working on composition and changing his craft and whatnot. So Zappa changed, as Zappa always indeed did. So let's have a look at what we get in this here set. So we start out with a nice picture of Frank himself on the cover there. So essentially this is a bit like a follow-up to the Mothers box set, the Mothers 7-1 that came out earlier this year, although it's such a completely different sound that you'd never know. You ain't getting Flo and Eddie on here. There's no Billy the Mountain. More's the pity, I love Billy the Mountain. So it's a nice clamshell case, nice and compact. Here's the, because we never throw these out, children, we never throw these out. Here's your hype sticker, should you want to have a peek. So, as always, I'll just go through what you get, and then those of you who just come to see what it is can say toodaloo, and then those of you who want a few thoughts can stick around. So, opens up like, yeah, so a nice clamshell, nice green inner, alternate photo of Frank, so here's your booklet here. By the way, this Funko, I asked for this for Christmas, and I got this with it. I think I've got about 8 of them and I've never bought one myself. Although I appreciate them if you happen to be one of the 8 that's bought with them. So let's go through the disc then. So open that up. Put that. Okay, not a disaster. It's only Jackie Chan. Right, so the discs themselves. We get disc 1, album recording session alternates and outtakes. Album recording session alternate and outtakes continued. Wonderfully titled, that one. That was beautiful. Disc 3, this is where it gets really interesting. George Juke demos the master versions. George Juke demos session outtakes. And the Grand Wazoo live. So we get a couple of pieces live there at the end. And then we get 10-piece Petite Wazoo live continued. So it's from the Winterland, San Francisco, December 15th, I think. That sticks in my mind. It doesn't say so here, but December the 15th, 71 sticks in my mind. We'll find out in a second. And then the Blu-ray disc gives you the 2 actual albums remastered, Blu-ray audio. So you get the actual albums of the original Waka Jawaka and Grand Wazoo. So let's jump to the booklet and see if we can throw some light on the dates and whatnot. So, as always, very nicely done, full of great shots, plenty of reading. And the best thing about this, it's nice and budgety. You get 4 CDs and the Blu-ray, which again includes the albums in the best quality you've ever heard them, and it wasn't even £50. Whereas 73, what, $150 for one disc more with no Blu-ray. So there's your breakdown of the band itself. So we've got obviously Zappa's conducting. Doesn't play a lot of guitar on some of it because it was again convalescing. Tony Duran on slide, George Duke of course on keys, Don Preston, erroneous bass players, Ainsley Dunbar is on drums, brass, Sal Marquez, Malcolm McNabb, Bill Byers, Ken Schroyer, Ernie Tack, big drum one section, vocals from Frank, Sal, Janet Neville Ferguson, Lauren Wood, and then you get annotation for each individual track, which is quite nice. I appreciate they've done that. So not massively in depth, but just to let you know if there's anything particularly. So for example, Waka Jawaka, the outtake version, is compiled from remaining outtake source material found in the master reel. So it's not one, just like Frank's own cuts were often not one long 15-minute track. It would often be compiled from, some of these have been compiled from as well. Eat That Question recording during the George Duke session, so they were doing both at once in the same time. Great pictures of the man himself there. This is absolutely packed, it really is. So the George Duke sessions, again recorded at the same time, with most of the bands, but it's George on keys and vocals, Frank on guitar, Ainsley on drums, Sal on trumpet, some of the woodwinds, percussion could be Emil Richards and it could be Bob Zimmerity. But you get the master versions of For Love I Come Your Friend, Psychomatic Dung, Uncle Remus, which is an instrumental, and Love. And then for outtakes, you get For Love I Come Your Friend, basic triad take 1, Psychosomatic Dung, basic triad take 2, and then Love, basic triad take 1. And then to move on to, so that's the George Duke stuff. Those tracks were released by George Duke, but not these versions. So the Zappa versions are exclusive to this. This is the first time they've been officially released. So to jump onto the live stuff, the Grand Wazoo live, the Wazoo 20-piece band seems to have only been captured on tape once, or at least that's all that's been found in the vault thus far. Here we have Frank Zappa bringing the master tape of the Boston Music Hall 72 show to the record plant in LA to create a new sonically treated edited master. This version, and that's of Approximate, is unreleased, although the full Boston show was released in 2007 as Wazoo. So that version's unreleased, although the full show itself has been released elsewhere. And then that takes us to Petite Wazoo Live, which is a whole disc. The total time for the Winterland 72 concert is roughly an hour and 20 minutes. Interestingly, a concert review reports 7 numbers played. If indeed there was an encore, it was not captured on tape. So it's called the Petite Wazoo because it's a slimmed down band. So you've got Zappa, who at this point was able to play guitar again frequently, Tony Duran on slides, Dave Parlato, Jim Gordon on drums, very prolific player, dedicating dominoes and whatnot, and then brass, Malcolm McNabb, Gary Barone, Glenn Ferris, Tom Malone, Bruce Fowler, and Errol Dumler on woodwinds. And the tracks you get there, Winterland opening and band intros, Little Dots, America Drinks, Montana, Father Oblivion, Cosmic Debris, and Chunga's Revenge. And there's Zappa's own layout of what he wanted the stage to be arranged like, probably a bit more safety conscious given what had just happened to him. And then with an explanation of the Blu-ray audio itself. So these were from the Mastering Lab in 2012. With the Blu-ray audio disc, you are now able to hear at home what we hear in the studio. This disc contains all 4 tracks from Waka, Jawaka, and all 5 from the Grand Wazoo in high resolution. So that's 48 kHz a second, 24-bit Dolby Atmos, and Dolby Digital True HD 5.1 surround, and 96 kHz 24-bit PCM stereo. It's primarily an audio-only disc with basic navigation and song information displayed on screen. The 96 kHz bit audio has 256 times more resolution than a CD. This is quite handy if you ever need to explain what are the advantages of Blu-ray audio. Just keep this note handy. Providing greater detail and reproducing the music's full dynamic range from the softest to the loudest sounds. So it won't produce the warmth of analog, for example, but it will reproduce exactly digitally what was fed into it in the first place, no matter how many times it's repeated. And you won't have any mess ups like Morph I've had this year. Cool band shot. Yeah, and you get the full story of Zappa's year in convalescence and deciding to change up the band, deciding to change up the sound, and George Duke wanting to kind of put the profile on him because Frank was going in that kind of fusion-y direction, and George was certainly a primary candidate to kind of break out that way as well. Scott Parker does the audio, does the booklet notes. I did them in August, so yeah, a great picture to round us off there. So yeah, this is terrific value. This is insane value. I mean, if you don't know these albums, Waka Jawaka, it's again only 4 tracks, but what tracks? You get a massive epic to bookend it. Big Swifty opens it, and it's pure jazz fusion with some eccentricities that you'd expect from Frank, and then Waka Jawaka closes it, which is a bit more straightforward fusion-y. So you can tell he's definitely been listening to what's been happening with the birth of what we'd call fusion with Bitches Brew and Mahavishnu and whatnot. If they even formed yet, or that whole scene anyway. He's been listening to avant-garde jazz, and he's ready to move on. But in the middle, you get these 2 silly tracks. I love them to bits. Your Mouth is like Frank doing New Orleans jazz blues. It's so fun. And then it just might be a one-shot deal. Sneaky Pete, being a country rock fan, Sneaky Pete Kleinlaw plays pedal steel on that, and it is one of my favourite tracks. So back to back, it's like Frank does a bit of the blues and a bit of country rock, which is just hello, and then wraps it up in a fusion-y blanket. Grand Wazoo, you do get an extra track because there's not 2 big epics. There's one, the Grand Wazoo, which opens it, there's much more jazz heavy. The Grand Wazoo, it kind of perfected the idea by then. For Calvin, then there's next two Hitchhikers, Cletus or Ritus or Ritus. So short but so fun. I wish that went on for another 10 minutes myself. I could easily watch another 10 minutes of Cletus or Ritus or Ritus. Eat That Question has some of Frank's best ever guitar playing. It sounds as close to Maggot Brain, Eddie Hazel's solo, as I've heard anyone coming, and that's a compliment indeed. And then Blessed Relief is the last track on Waka, the Grand Wazoo, and that is indeed a spiritual kind of track. It is absolutely gorgeous. Some of Frank's greatest ever playing. So to be able to dip into discs 1 and 2 here and hear all the alternate takes, so you get Your Mouth take 1, Big Swifty alternate, Minimal Art, which is a different version of Eat That Question, an outtake of Blessed Relief, Think It Over, which is an alternate Grand Wazoo. Calvin and his Niche 2 Hitchhikers, Waka, Jawaka outtake, Cletus or Ritus or Ritus alternate, Eat That Question version 2, alternate mix of Big Swifty, Calvin alternate mix, Might Just Be a One Shot Deal alternate mix, Waka Jawaka alternate mix, Cletus or Ritus or Ritus alternate mix, and Eat That Question alternate mix. So there's a lot of alternate mixes as well as just different versions. And then disc 3, if you're a George Duke fan, you need this just for your George Duke collection, because it's got a George Duke album that's completely unreleased with Frank Zappa as essentially the band leader, pretty much. So you'll have the tracks for Love, I Come Your Friend, Psychosomatic Dung, Uncle Remus and Love, but you don't have these versions unless you go the legs and things. And then you get, as I said, all sorts of outtakes for those. So you get 7 tracks of the George Duke sessions, and then we're going to the live stuff, which we've already run through. So yeah, this Zappa estate is what you should be doing. Concentrate on giving us these slimmed down sets, pared down, not big. Don't release this. Not these big £150 box sets, you know, that have, yeah, they're great and they've got some lovely pictures, but they are just big books at the end of the day, and they're not even that comprehensive for this money. I mean, we're music fans, come on, we want the music most first and foremost. So for the same amount of money, we could get 3 of these, which has got more music, and it's got higher quality music, and it's got the original albums that you can now have on higher quality than we've ever had them before on home media. You didn't get that in Airy or any of the big boxes before, so, you know, keep that up, please. That would be nice. That'd be nice. But anyway, yeah, so that's about it. Again, I don't know what I'll do with this. I can't think whether Frank would be mildly amused or absolutely appalled that he was a Funko Pop, but I suppose, is it that different from being a t-shirt? We're all a commodity in the end, I suppose. However, I'll try and make another video before Christmas, but no promises. So if I don't, have yourself a very little Christmas. No. Have yourself a nice little no. Have Merry Christmas Day. No. Jingle bells. Stay very safe out there, from me. Love and mercy, my dears. Love and mercy.